Hello, my name is Hitendra Patel. I'm the Managing Director of the Global Innovation Management Institute. I'd like to welcome you and join our vision and our mission of the Institute. Our vision is to democratize innovation everywhere. In organizations like universities or corporations, in high schools, in governments. And the idea is to unleash that creativity across the globe. Our mission is much more simpler: to train 1 million people worldwide, certify them, and unleash their creativity and their problem-solving skills to target any problem on this planet. The Global Innovation Management Institute has got certifications for individuals, for corporations, as well as for the government. And the whole idea over here is through certifications, people have the right to practice innovation. Through certifications, we create a roadmap for how to get better and improve as we get level 1 certificate to level 2 to level 3. We are today working with the Dubai government, the Qatar government, across Colombia, in Brazil, in the United States, helping these institutes and these countries become better in terms of their innovation journeys. We're working with corporations, giving them roadmaps, how they can go from level 1 to level 2. And we're giving certificates to individuals as they go from level 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of how they can actually innovate themselves, how they can innovate in teams, and how they can innovate in a company.
We've worked with several innovation consultancies, and we found the GIMI methodology to be able to help us democratize innovation very quickly across large groups of people.
Curriculum isn't enough anymore. We need to really be finding ways to expand the school into the community and bring the communities into the school. And design thinking and the GIMI impact model is what's going to help do that. I think that we really need to start looking for authentic, experiential learning opportunities for our students. And this is a really great framework that teachers can use that makes it easy to do.
The value that we see being part of the GIMI program is that we can offer capability building for students, for professionals, for corporations, and that's really exciting to be able to create a language that can help everybody connect with what strategic innovation is.
Today we've got 25 countries who are partners of the Global Innovation Management Institute. We'd like to see all 195 plus countries becoming part of this institute. So we are looking for training partners across the globe. We're looking for university partners in every one of those countries so they can be part of our network. And we would like to see companies and corporations around the world all embracing the certification programs of GIMI. And as a result, we can target any problem and we can solve any problem. Join us on our mission through certificates to give people the right to practice and a roadmap of how to improve.
Great. Thank you very much. Welcome to the GIMI Think Tank today. As you know, this is a platform where we invite speakers from around the world every Wednesday. We invite speakers to talk about cutting-edge trends, about innovative methods that they have invented or implemented, talk about the innovation state of a country. And actually today we are very happy to have a GIMI member, such as Ian Small. So Ian is technical innovation lead at Expedition Engineering, and he will talk about Soar Innovation Method, how innovation ideas can be systematically, basically, sorry, one second, how these ideas can be systematically de-risked using an infrastructure decarbonization program. Ian is an innovation consultant, has quite an extensive background in corporate innovation, wastewater, asset management, more than 2 years career. He actually right now is the innovation lead in the infrastructure performance consulting team, and he will talk a little bit more also about his experience around that. He has worked mainly with infrastructure clients in UK, like Network Rail, National Highways, basically to refine, review, assess core innovation ideas. and bid for funding. So Ian works with multidisciplinary teams, help define the core problems and look for solutions. So he knows a lot about innovation ideas, how to find the best innovation ideas and how to win with them. Ian has developed this innovative approach, which he will talk about, to efficiently and accurately assess the readiness of an innovation, basically, which is called Soar Innovation Method. He has has implemented this method to deliver the decarbonization technology accelerator program with a 21 million pound budget and basically 20% carbon reduction goal across 7 billion pound flooding capital program. So I'll stop sharing and welcoming Ian. Welcome, Ian. Can you talk us a little bit more about your experience in innovation, but also how did you really come up with this new method, and why did it actually work for you? And you are right now talking about that more because you have seen it succeeded.
Thank you, Rila, and thank you everyone for joining today. It's great to be here. Normally, I spend my time talking to civil and structural engineers about innovation and challenges. So it's nice to be talking to some fellow innovators for a change. So yeah, my background is I started in the water sector 20 years ago. I built models of town sanitary sewer systems and solved problems for those. And I've taken on various roles in a number of engineering consultancies over the last 20 years. And about 6 years ago, I got asked to be the innovation lead at ACOM across their Europe, Middle East and Africa business. And I built a number of programs and implemented a number of competitions and things to help deliver innovation corporately. And then I felt the need for a change and a change of structure of organisation. I'll come on to explain a bit more when I start sharing my screen. But I went from a giant American shareholder-owned multinational to an SME that's a social enterprise and basically a not-for-profit that with only sort of tens of people in the organisation. So it's a very different style of organisation and has given me much more opportunity and capacity to develop my thinking on things like the Soar innovation model that we'll come on to today.
Great, thank you, Ian. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Right, good afternoon, everyone. So before we get in, I'll just finish off my introduction to myself. So the GIF on the left is to represent my technical background when I actually did a real job, and I turned. I understood what flooding was going to happen when it was raining, and I did that across the UK. I also did it internationally as well, some projects in the Far East, India, and Middle East, and then more recently I've been more involved, and you can see me there with a double teapot running a workshop looking at innovation models and solutions for a particular challenge. And so I do lots of workshops and delivery of sessions nowadays. And then when I'm not in work, I try and get the running shoes on as much as possible. We have this thing called Park Run, which is a free 5K run every Saturday in the UK. That's sort of semi-serious and semi-competitive, which every year I set a target time, which I never achieve, but it's good fun anyway. And then I have a 4-year-old son who probably has about as much energy as this kid, who keeps me entertained and keeps me well grounded. And then at the bottom I play field hockey. For those of you not in North America, it's on grass with a ball. It's pretty dangerous, but it's good fun. It's a good way to de-stress after a long week of challenging meetings and work. And then I recently sat down with the Institute of Water to talk about my career. So you fancy that there's a QR code there that will take you to that article, but to the link we can share later. So if I move on to Expedition Engineering, is the company I work for. It's part of the Useful Simple Trust, which is about 80 people together, and we are celebrating 25 years of existence next year. We're an employee-owned benefit trust and a social enterprise, which means we have profit for purpose, and we have 4 themes that drive the work that we do. So we're looking to restore and adapt, work for good, do more with less, and get set for net zero. And we are in a fortunate position that our clients recognise us as the forefront of those challenges within the built environment, and therefore we are in demand to deliver those services and innovation. Fits across all of these as we help organisations to deliver those against those goals. So just a quick slide on some of the stuff that we get involved in. So we designed the velodrome for the London Olympics, which is an award-winning project. We have an engineering education component, so we support young people that want to get involved in civil engineering. We have a sustainability consultancy. We do some architectural work, and then we also have a communication design studio. So for a small organisation, we have quite a breadth of capability, and I sit in the Expedition Engineering team. And then within Expedition Engineering, that started off as a structural design house, we spun up a group called Infrastructure Performance Consulting about 3 years ago, which is aimed at solving problems for large infrastructure clients here in the UK. So we work, as Arina mentioned, with rail companies, road, water, organisations like Transport for London look after the tube and the buses and the roads, etc. in the capital. And we do that either aiming to improve the delivery of programs or also specific projects. So that could be things like we worked with HS2, which is building a new high-speed rail line to improve the efficiency of their program. And then we also worked with Network Rail to decarbonise railway platforms. So when they build a new platform, we've managed to reduce the carbon in that by 60% through a number of processes. And so just to sort of wanted to borrow a couple of slides from my productivity colleagues. One of our senior directors is Ed McCann, who is a former president of the Institute of Civil Engineers, and he's a leading voice championing productivity improvement in construction. And the table on here is to sort of demonstrate the scale of the challenge that construction faces. Other industries have improved their productivities considerably over the last few decades. And I could have shown us a number of graphs that show how terrible construction is relative to everybody else. But this slide just shows how everything is always late. It costs more than it should, and we don't get as much benefit as we should, as we expect. And we see this as a big area for improvement. And how does this fit into innovation? We believe that unless you can get teams to be productive and operating at a best practice level, there's very little point in trying to get innovation to land. If your team is only performing at an average level, they won't have the capacity or the bandwidth in order to adopt and adapt to the innovations that might take them to a whole new level. And so we work with organisations to bring them up to best practice and bring in innovations at the right time into the right teams. That. So where's the challenge in the infrastructure space? So I borrowed this. This is a snip from the National Highways website, where they're talking about their innovation strategy. And the important note here is innovation takes new knowledge and uses it to test those ideas or solutions or technology. We can then develop them into better ways of delivering our key outcomes and solving problems, which is lovely. But there's no talk about implementing that innovation. There's no point of doing anything once you've tried it. As a client organisation, they have no They have very few levers to pull with their supply chain to make them actually deliver innovation at scale. So they spend lots of money testing and trying things, and then they go and sit on a shelf, never to see the light of day. I've been a little bit unfair using National Highways as an example, because I happen to know that they're currently rewriting their strategy, and they will be including implementation as part of their new one coming out soon. But this is a sort of a standard level of innovation maturity within the UK infrastructure sector, that people want to test and trial things they don't necessarily want to use them. And so the cartoon that I like to use is a variation on crossing the chasm, and you've got your innovators climbing the mountain to deliver their pilot, and they think, brilliant, we've delivered it. Let's have some champagne. Whereas in reality, the hard work is still to come, crossing this rope bridge and getting to the business impact, whatever that might be. And this is the area that I've been focusing on, and where I've been trying to get the Soar Innovation Model used, is turning that rope bridge into an escalator, so that business impact is achieved as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Hopefully not trying to go up the down escalator like this little dog is. So where did the idea for the Soar Innovation Model come from? It started with a number of projects wanting to claim that they were ready to be used at scale when I was working at AECOM, and they were coming along and saying, "Oh, we're at TRL level 8," and I was like, "This is great, but why are they not working? What's the reason that your project's not succeeding and getting adopted across the organisation?" And I realised that I needed more granularity than simply using a TRL. It has no nuance. It doesn't really fit infrastructure, and it doesn't explain why they fail. So one of my colleagues shared with me something called the rail industry readiness level, and again, there's a link on this slide to take you to where this is. But it's provided by Network Rail, who manage the rail infrastructure in the UK, and they use this model for deploying new signalling systems within the network. And you have to achieve all of the boxes, going from left to right, in order for your signalling system to be adopted onto the rail. It has loads of granularity, but it doesn't have anything to do with people. It's all about systems. And I'm sure, as everybody on the call will know, people are by far the most important component of any innovation succeeding or failing. So I used that as my starting point. And then I looked at, once I sort of started delving into what's an innovation readiness level, I then started looking at other models. So the left-hand plot is from a paper by Evans and Johnson looking at early stage business model innovation. So they've got the sort of standard radar diagram, and further out the point is the more mature, and that's for one set of businesses. And then on the right-hand side there is from the Swedish University KTH, and their innovation readiness level model, which comes from that very academic, how do we spin out academic innovations or ideas or research into being businesses and products and services. So they're very interested in the IPR, they're interested in the funding. So I started to realise that every industry is different, and every organisation has their own way of thinking about these things. So at the time, I was working a lot with UK water companies. The regulator here in the UK had just set up a £200 million innovation fund. All the water companies were looking to find ideas, assess ideas, and submit them for funding. And so my first attempt developing the readiness level model was basically to take the rail industry model and replicate it for the water sector. So that's the left-hand diagram is a variation on the rail one. We're just with some variations to make it water specific. And then the right-hand side diagram was validation that I was heading in the right direction. A contact of mine, Wes Little, had, as part of his MBA dissertation, created a very similar concept model for how the water sector could assess the maturity of their innovation ideas and their products and services. So once I realised that, or once I sort of validated that was on the right step, I was then trying to work out how best to communicate the innovation readiness levels. So I started with thinking about things like this. The business model canvas is a very good way of sharing the concept of an idea, but it would need to be a 3D version because each criteria is a different box and each level is a layer on top. And so you would have to build it out somehow. So I've never quite worked out how to do that effectively. And then the top right image is around another systems readiness level model, but I quite like this one because it had different colours to represent how much each box had been achieved, whether it was achieved in green or whether there was still lots of work to do red, or somewhere in the middle with the orange. And then I was thinking about whether I needed 9 levels to the model. So there's a paper by Town Land where they modeled 6. So you can see the orange box, they modeled 6 levels, and then they split those into development, market as well. So there's various ways of chopping it up. And so I took all of this work and I tried a few things. So top left box is, everybody else has used a radar chart. I should probably use a radar chart as well. So I created one of those for my criteria, but I found that it didn't land very well when people were looking at trying to understand how close to success they were or how far they got through the process. They got focused on the wrong things, I felt. Then I tested using different colours. So this top right-hand box is where I carried out an assessment for an innovation project, or a stage of an innovation project that had been delivered by one of my clients. And so they talked me through what they expected to have achieved at the end of their project, which is the sort of middle colour greens. And then we then reviewed what they'd actually achieved during the delivery of their project with the funding they received, and that's these darker greens. And then we talked about what their ambition, how far they were hoping they were going to get with the project. And so that was quite a good tool for assessing whether the project had achieved what it was aiming to. And we'll come on to what the different readiness level criteria are. And then I also looked at, could I simplify them all right down to far fewer boxes? So could I just look at group the criteria into three sort of major categories, and rather than 9 levels, could we just look at testing as in early stage, optimizing where we're piloting, and then the scaling up adoption phase? And I'll talk about where that the different situations that was effective in as well during the case study. So this is what I ended up with, the Soar readiness level matrix, and there's a QR code there that'll take you to the landing page. A few more bits of information, but where I've ended up with is splitting 9 levels of maturity, 9 levels of readiness, into concept, refinement, growing, and then 11 criteria that each innovation can be assessed against. So technology is relatively straightforward, it's the thing that you're developing if it's a technology, and then manufacturing readiness is how quickly can you produce it, or can you produce it at the volumes you need. So it's no good saying you've invented a widget and you can produce 5 of them a week in your shed if you have a client that says I need 1 million next month. There's a manufacturing issue there. Software readiness is very similar in terms of have you got your software mature enough Is it at beta level? Is it at fully deployable? Integration readiness is around how well does your innovation link with other processes and systems and tools to deliver the task or the outcome that you're looking to achieve. So when I'm working in the infrastructure space, most innovations have to work within a design or delivery process that already exists, and therefore it's how do you integrate with the way people are working, for example. And system readiness, my definition of that is how do the organization tools and processes have to work. So, for example, if you've got a new type of machinery that you want to use on site, the question is, does it meet the client system requirements, so the minimum technical requirements to achieve the outcome, or does it sit outside of those? And if so, how do you get that approved? Then reliability readiness also incorporates quality readiness, so that's around, does your product deliver the outcome every time? Does it achieve the level of quality needed? Does it need what level of maintenance does it need? Does that all fit with what the expectation for the product or service is? The knock-in demand is all about the commercials. How much of your innovation is needed? Can you be validated? The market size. How are you going to get into contracts? Often in the infrastructure space, everything's bought through frameworks. So are you on a framework? Is it easy for people to buy your product or service? Those sorts of things that we cover there. And then team and organization. So team readiness is looking at the innovation team that are delivering the idea. Have they got the skills and capability to deliver the innovation? And that varies across the matrix. So on the left-hand side, when you're at the concept stage, you want people that are subject matter experts. And then towards the right-hand side, when you're in the growing phase and scaling up, you want more people that are capable of delivering training, science, and those sorts of skills. And in the world that I live in, there are very few people that can do everything from one side or the other. And so so you expect that your innovation team will evolve over the life of the project. And the organisation readiness is there when you've got a limited pool of clients. So this is more for business to business type sales or innovations. And this is, has your potential client got the capacity or the capability to actually be able to adopt and make a success of your innovation? So when we're working in the water sector in the UK, there are only 20 potential clients, and we know pretty well where their capabilities and their capacity is, and therefore we can target our innovations at the right clients that we know will turn our innovation into a success. I've looked at a number of different use cases for the model once I developed it. So my original grand plan was that I would assess millions or hundreds of thousands of innovations, and I would keep tabs on them as they matured, and that would allow me to build a database with some sort of algorithm in it that would then predict whether other innovations being projected would be successful, and also allow me to build some sort of large language model of a chatbot type thing that would allow people to talk to the database projects and find out what they should be doing next to deliver their innovation project. I also looked at using it as a tool to do audits of innovations that failed, to try and work out which of the criteria were the ones where the innovation hadn't achieved what it was hoping to do. Those are all still there in lines. They just haven't moved forward because I haven't had a project that's needed to test those ideas out yet. The ones that I have tested are things like new product assessments. So I work with a couple of clients whenever somebody comes along the wants to pitch a new innovative solution to a problem, I join the call and I do an assessment, a readiness level assessment across each of the criteria while they're pitching, and then I'll share that report both with the innovator and the client to let them know where we think their innovation is strong, where they still need to do some improvements. The innovation project review I've already talked about, and then I also operate as a consultancy service, helping organisations to improve their innovation capabilities. And then I've also built a very simple tool in Microsoft Forms with about 30 questions that will automate the readiness assessment at a high level. It's not very granular at the moment, but it will give you we think your readiness level is in the optimizing phase, for example. And then the example I'm going to talk about today in more detail is the decarbonisation program that I'm delivering for the Environment Agency. Take a quick look. So the Environment Agency is a government-supported body. They build defences to protect people and properties from flooding, amongst other services. They also keep tab on waste pollution. They are aiming to protect approximately 250,000 properties by 2030 with £7 billion of investment. I've found in the infrastructure space, especially in the UK, lots of organisations have made commitments and strategies to achieve net zero, but the Decarbonisation Technology Accelerator is the first tactical plan to see about how an organisation would actually go about delivering it. And I was brought in when they were starting to develop a business case for funding for the programme, which has taken us 2 years to get approved. So it's not the most dynamic space in the world. So the Environment Agency have ambition to be a net zero organisation. They set a moonshot goal of achieving net zero by 2030. They are now aiming to knock 40% of their carbon out of their activities, and they had aims to offset the rest, but they realised that offsetting is not a suitable solution. So they're now just aiming for the 40% reduction by 2030, and most of their carbon, 64%, comes from their capital program, so building flood defences. And as you can imagine, flood defences are mostly made of concrete, moving earth around, and such like. So there's lots of construction-related carbon, and also quite a lot of operational carbon from pumping stations when it rains that pump water out of harm's way. So the decarbonisation technology, in short, is a programme to accelerate the adoption of low-carbon solutions and deployment on the EA capital programme. And the goal is to deliver both cost and carbon efficiencies. To get the business case approved, we had to demonstrate that we were going to reduce the cost of the capital programme as well. We are going to deliver that over 3 years. We've worked quite hard, and we deliberately don't call it an innovation programme because it has the connotation of trials rather than the delivery and change. And so we're very careful about our terminology about that it's a delivery program, that we're trying to scale up these solutions, that we need everybody to use them, and we're using the Environment Agency's change program techniques to help get those changes adopted across the supply chain. So we've got 37 different technologies, which we've split across 6 themes. We're going to deliver them at scale across the 3 years, and we've been funded with almost £22 million to deliver this. And the 6 themes are listed on the screen. So modern methods of construction. So that's things like concrete 3D printers, automated machine control, offsite design, offsite construction, general manufacturing approaches. Earthworks optimization is about how do we make the most use of the materials we've got available on site. How do we understand ground conditions and things like that. And we've got 2 concrete themes. I never knew I was going to learn so much about concrete as I have in the last couple of years. It's a very complicated subject, but we've got a number of novel and ultra-low carbon concrete that are produced by a number of suppliers that sit well beyond the current standards and specifications. And then the second concrete theme, concrete 2, is looking at the optimization of design and specification of concrete products that sit within existing standards, which have just been updated. So there's quite a lot of capacity for improvement even within the existing standards for concrete. Then there's lots of reinforcement and block gates and other steel products that get installed, and so there's a theme on steel. And then the final one is asset management. So that's focusing on optimization of the assets we've already got, extending their lives, and making sure and making best use of technology in asset monitoring. So things like using satellite data to track the movement, or hopefully no movement in earthworks, or using remote sensors to track the performance of pumping stations, those sorts of things. So there's 16. So how does the Soar Innovation Model fit into the program? So before we have identified 37 solutions, we use the readiness level model to assess how mature they currently are. And then we also use that to make sure to determine whether we think we could get the solution to scale within the 3 years of the program. If we didn't think we could get it to the scaling up phase, then the solutions didn't make it onto the program. We're also aware that new technologies will come to market while we're delivering the program, and so there's a process in place for allowing them to come in, which uses the same model. Then we've used the matrix, the model, to plan what we're going to do and when are we going to do it. So what tasks are we going to complete in each year so that we get to the scaling up. We've also used some models based off the model to do the budgeting, to work out how much it's going to cost. So how do we generate the 21.6 million? It was based off how much we think it's reasonable to expect each solution to cost to complete each of the boxes on the matrix. And then we're also using it to track the progress. You know, how quickly are we learning? How fast are the various boxes on the model being achieved? And parallel to that, how much carbon do we think we can save? And are we being cost effective in what we're delivering? So just a quick slide on how we're doing, how we did the assessment, and this is just, I've deliberately made it too small to read. The overview of the sort of requirements required for each box, so that when we were assessing each solution, we could quickly understand roughly within 2 or 3 boxes that the innovation was for each of the criteria. Then when we got into the planning phase, so the green boxes represent the levels that have already been achieved. So the one on the left, is a technology that is already proven in another industry, but hasn't been used for flood defences before, and therefore there's a number of most of the efforts need to go in getting the organisation and the processes and approvals in place to be able to use the solution. And then the one on the right is much more ambitious. Can we get a new, in this case it's low carbon concrete, can we get that developed and used at scale in the 3 years? And the different colour blues represent which year of the programme we're planning to complete each of the tasks. And then the sticky notes, the virtual sticky notes, represent the tasks that have been identified that need to be completed to deliver the program. And then the budgeting. So we took a model of how much it costs per technology readiness level, and then we split those out using our experience of delivering innovations in infrastructure to create potentially overly complex Excel spreadsheets that took the readiness levels that were achieved, what was left to be achieved, and allocated the spend based on the size of the project, whether it went to the hub teams that were going to be delivering the trials, implementing the solutions, or whether it needed to go to the national teams that were going to be doing the sort of changes to the specifications for those activities, or whether it needs to go to the teams for scaling up and helping the adoption of the solutions. And so this model was used to back up a business case and justify the budget that we were requesting. And now that we're into the delivery phase, we've built a number of dashboards to help us understand the progress. So on the left-hand side here, we've got a league table. So we're assessing the innovations as a sort of meritocracy. So if the technology is going to be very carbon efficient, it's going to reduce the carbon by the embodied carbon by 70 or 80%, and it's not going to take us very long to get it to scale, then that's and we're confident we'll achieve that. Then it scores highly and is at the top of the league table. And then if it's at the bottom, that means we aren't confident. It doesn't look like it's going to save much carbon, and it's costing us a lot of money to get there. And the reason for this is if a new technology comes along, we need to know which is the most appropriate one to knock off the bottom of the list, because we've got a finite budget, and we are not expecting to, as shown by the slide at the beginning of how much we have cost overruns in this sort of stuff. We're not expecting to be underspending. Therefore, we need to know which solutions to pause if we need to. And then we're tracking each of the themes and how effective they are at learning. So we can understand which themes are being effective at maturing their solutions quickly and cost effectively, so that if there's a theme that is not performing well, or its individual solutions not performing well, we can pick those out, go and support them to work out where the additional support is needed. So we've got a number of dashboards that help us do that. And then the whole purpose of the program is to save carbon. And so there are a number of uncertainties as we develop our understanding of the 37 solutions. We recognise that there's an uncertainty in how much carbon it can actually save. There's also an uncertainty in how much more efficient it might be than the existing way it works. We also don't know how many assets it's going to be applicable to, and we also don't know how many assets are going to be built, because the designs change all of the time to protect the properties. And we also don't know which schemes are going to be built when, because that also changes over time. And so there's vast amounts of uncertainty when we're trying to predict how much carbon we're going to save. So we built a Monte Carlo model, and I've just dropped out one here that shows the sort of hurricane chart of how much the sort of range of carbon that we think will save, and obviously those will narrow over time as the solutions mature. So when we actually get to delivery, we'll be able to track as the technologies develop at different paces. The ones that scale up first, we were able to see whether our predictions of carbon saving are actually accurate, and help us to inform the later solutions that come through. And then I'm on to the last couple of slides you would be pleased to know. So this one just has I've mapped out the 37 different solutions, and using the size of the blob represents how much funding it's got. The colour represents whether it's an early stage testing project in grey, or the solo one that's at the growing phase already in green. And circle around the outside tells you which theme the solution fits into. And we've got innovation risk across the bottom, and so increasing innovation risk across the bottom, and expected carbon stroke benefit return on the left. So we've got a number of low risk, low return projects, and we've got a number of high risk, high reward projects. And then we've got some like this graphene one that is potentially low return but high risk, which is a question as to why it's in the program at all, which is one of the discussions we're having as at the program board level at the moment. And this is helping us to communicate what the program is up to, and we'll be able to show over time where these blobs have moved as we learn things. And just very briefly to talk about scaling, obviously that's the most important part for this program. So we're using the APCAR, which is the Environment Agency standard change management model, about how to achieve that. But we're also complementing that with a cascading networking approach. So we're trying to get as many people engaged with the program across the sort of 2,500 people that are involved in the delivery, and conveniently in their tracks with their supply chain a decarbonisation incentive mechanism. So there's an agreed glide path to net zero, and if organisations beat it, they get a financial bonus, and if they miss their glide path, they face a penalty. So there's an organisational incentive for the supply chain to adopt the low carbon solutions, which makes my life a lot easier. So that is the Reynolds level model, and how I've deployed it in the Decarbonisation Technology Accelerator. I'm curious as to what people on the call think about how it looks and what other models they've seen that it looks similar to. Also, always looking for ways to improve it. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Ian, thank you very much for your presentation. If you can start presenting.
Okay.
First of all, I thought the presentation was very, very illuminating in terms of the discipline, the rigor of the thinking from left to right, from idea all the way to implementation. So I think there's a lot that you have done, and each one of them could be a PhD project on its own as a topic. So I just want to make sure that I could see the depth and the rigors and everything that you've worked on this. A couple of things, Ian, just at the high level, what I understand you did was you took what was standard models like TLDR and others, and he says it wasn't enough. It kind of gave us a guideline, a very big, broad, high level, 50,000 view of what a roadmap could be. But if you were to double click on that, then there was another dimension of additional things that you had to pay attention to, and you broke it down to those variables. And each one of those variables, if you did do it correctly, you de-risk the implementation of the innovation indirectly out of doing that. And then you came back into a matrix or a scorecard that everybody can understand and say, look, it's just going from left to right. Do these 3 things. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 things, and each one of them there's 2 or 3 things that you got to really pay attention to, and to do that. And you went from what was simple to what became complex, and then you brought it back to simple again, hopefully, for the audience. Right? Yeah. So in this effort, how much effort do you have to put with the team that you're working with and other people to educate them, saying, look, let me tell you what we were doing. This is why we did more, and it's good for us to go into more rigor and more depth, because human beings like to take shortcuts. They would love to jump from TRL 1 to all the way to 8 immediately overnight. Right.
Yes.
So that conversation, first of all, is really important, because on innovation, we don't like to be boxed in. We don't want to be boxed into a process. We don't want to be boxed into rigor. We don't want stage gates. We don't want any of that stuff. So, Ian, how did you work with the team to, first of all, get it and then explain it and then onboard them to support you?
So I'll start with the last one first. So in the way that we communicate about the SOAR model is that it is not it is not the tail wagging the horse. We're not the dog. That's a terrible analogy, isn't it? It's not. The process isn't driving the project forward. The model is there to make sure that stuff isn't missed. Because everybody I talk to in the infrastructure space has got examples of, we went and built this wonderful thing out of this magical new material, and it was fantastic, but it never got used anywhere else because, and it's, it didn't fit the standards, or we couldn't get it from, you could only buy it from this one supplier and they went bust, or whatever it might be. And so it was always, we're trying to make sure that we don't miss things. And if you want to take shortcuts, that's fine, but you need to make sure that you haven't missed a fundamental component of the model. The getting people to buy into the model hasn't been too bad. It has needed lots of because engineers like working with processes, and they work with stage gate processes to get their designs approved at the moment. If you're building some sort of new flood defence, you have to do an outline design and the detailed design, and then the contractor value engineers it, and then it goes back to the beginning again anyway. So they're used to that process, and so it was just the most important part was stopping calling it an innovation process and calling it a delivery process, and then it landed pretty well. We have found that as we've expanded, so we started quite a tight team we just had the 6 people that were leading the themes, and then we had 2 or 3 people within the client organization, and we worked closely to do the first bit of the business case, and now we're getting bigger and bigger, and now we're launching it across the 2,500 people that work on this. The level of communication that we're having to go to and the frequency of messaging has grown exponentially in order to stop the Chinese whispers of that happen around. Oh, this is going to cause more risk on my program. We've got 21 million quid to make sure that risk is owned by us, not owned by you that is delivering schemes. Or we're going to have to go back and redesign things. No, you're not going to have to go back and redesign things. We're fitting them into the way where you are in the process.
Good. Ian, so I think for everybody listening in, discipline is what this framework is bringing to people, saying what's the boxes you got to really check off. And I don't want you to call it boxes in per se, but that's what they really are. I think if you got this thing cleared and you got this thing cleared, you have decreased your risk. You're managing the manageable risk, and then there's always still unmanageable risk in the innovation process. So they've deciphered that. Now, the question I have for you is, and I felt, I was waiting for the Monte Carlo to show up sooner or later, right? And I was like, Monte Carlo, loving it now. So we've got real data analysis, or at least probability statistics being applied to this thinking. The question, well, the thing I saw in that one graph that you showed, which was the TRL graph, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the end, and the cost of how much money was being spent at each stage, 1%, 3%, and onwards. It showed very cleanly that for the first 6 or 5 stages, TRL 1 to 5, it was only like 30 to 40% of your expenditures. And all of the cost was on the back end, on 7, 8, and 9. Yep. Right. And that is really insightful for people to say, what's your real cost of innovation? And if you wanted to, you could do maybe 100 things that you can start and work on and filter maybe at the TRL 4 or 5 level to make sure that only the best get through. And so are you doing some more math in there to say where should you really put more investment of people and time, because it doesn't cost you a lot? And on the back end, make sure you're very choiceful, and then make sure that you're doing the right ones. Otherwise, you're wasting a lot of money if you're doing the wrong things. So choosing wisely from 4 onwards, and being very, very liberal in the early stages, because it doesn't cost you so much. Because there's some theory that you can put out here saying, what's the statistical math which says how much you should play with upfront, and how selective, how disciplined should you be on the back end?
Yeah. So because we're looking to get these solutions for this particular example, because we're looking to get the solutions to scale within 3 years. Nearly all of them are at level 6 or beyond already, and so there's very few early stage ones, and we've gone through. The technical experts went through quite a rigorous process to work out which were the right solutions that they felt were going to be effective. So we've got a number of that are sat on the shelf, ready to come back in if something changes. One challenge that I do have with the visualization of the model at the moment is it doesn't represent that curve or time. You know, you could equally replace cost with time, and
Yes.
you can get through those first 4 or 5 boxes within weeks for some, and then it can take years to do the last 2, and I haven't worked out a way of decently visualizing that challenge yet, but they're the key ones.
Good. But I think there's a lot of data that you're collecting that will give us more insights of where to invest people or money or time, and therefore be more choiceful and more productive in our efforts,
Yes.
across the whole value chain itself. I want to just share one quick story. I see Adi has come in to ask a question. I'll just ask a quick. I want to just share one crazy thing that I saw. I was in Korea helping LG with the flat screen displays factory being built many years ago, and there was a partnership with the Dutch, LG Philips, and that's how they were trying to build it. And the Dutch were extremely careful about something to the high level of what you were proposing, saying go through each step, rigorously check it off before you build a factory, right technologies, right scale up, and everything else. And the colleagues from Korea basically took a shortcut. They just jumped the stage. And at the end, the decision was to move forward. And because they jumped the stage, they took a risk, a tremendous risk, in saying, let's just start building the factory in case you say yes or no on what we had to do. So instead of waiting for all the gates to be checked off, they started building downstream what was needed, the capacity, all that. End result was, it was a good idea. And they won about 7 months to 8 months of advantage over competitors because they jumped over the stages. And so the Dutch were really frustrated, like saying, you got to be disciplined. The Koreans were saying, well, sometimes you got to just make this decision and jump forward. And so is there anything in your model where you say, allow some sort of flexibility called optional thinking, or an optional pricing, optional ideas to be able to shortcut things?
So one of our key success metrics is that the solutions start being implemented by people that haven't been involved in the process. So let's say we get a team to test a magical new type of concrete, and they find it's a success in their particular region. If we then find that other teams in that region are then starting to use it even before it's been approved for high volume use, then we know we're onto a winner because people are seeing the benefits even before it's gone through all of our boxes, and that's one of our key success factors of if we know we're onto the right path, if other people are starting to use our technology that we're developing without us asking them to, because we know that means we'll get that exponential growth that we need to hit our carbon targets.
Very good. Adi, please, you have a question.
Sure. First of all, Ian, thanks all for the presentation. Extremely comprehensive framework, and I admire the fact that you filled each of the 88 boxes in the metrics with the right question. Because actually, as you go along, that was one of my questions. Do you have a definition for each of the stages? But my question, actually, Hitendra sort of captured part of my question. I would like to expand it a little bit. Have you found, Ian, when you work with clients introducing this framework, there might be differences in opinion when it comes to, for example, reliability readiness? Okay, in some industries, they may apply a more rigorous definition to that. So if you work, let's say if you're launching a new banking application, they may say, well, reliability is 9 sigma. Well, if you work for a gaming company, they may have a slightly different definition of reliability readiness. And it may happen also within the same industry, in the same company. So I just wonder if part of the process also is a dialogue or an alignment around those kind of different definition and milestones that are at the core of the methodology? Or do you allow
Yes,
for?
yeah. So we so the even the criteria can change. So if you're doing a solution that has nothing to do with software, you don't need the software criteria. And depending on, so I didn't cover this in the talk, but the rail industry readiness levels that I sort of started from, their definition is you are at the level of the criteria that's at the lowest level of maturity. So if it's all the way to the left, if everything's at 9, one of them's at 2, your product's at 2, which I feel is a bit harsh. And so we pick, or I work with clients to pick the criteria they think are the ones that are most critical for moving forward, and therefore they're the ones that get the most focus. I try to avoid changing the definitions in the 88 boxes as much as I can, a lot of different boxes. But they can be tailored.
Yeah, but per Tendra's examples, you may walk into organizations, say, I'm willing to take a certain level of risk, or again, quality readiness. Well, I'm willing to take the risk. I'm going to launch a product into the market. It will have bugs, it will have issues, but it buys me 6 months of lead time in terms of competitiveness. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you in that case, you would say, we're not, if we won't put our efforts into developing that quality readiness, and we won't make that a priority to make sure it's developed. Whereas the market, the building the marketing model might be the critical one there. Building, making sure your technology readiness is hit whatever milestone you've determined is the minimum that you need before you can launch it to the customers.
Ian, let me just do a wrap up of it's supposed to be a 1-hour webinar. So those who need to leave, we can leave and we can make the video and close that. So for everybody watching today, thank you very much for participating. Ian Small came today and presented an amazing framework for creating more predictable, reliable innovation. And it has a framework which talks about, it's related to the TRL model. It's also related to subcomponents of what you need to do on each one of that. And if you were rigorous enough and you work through each of it, you can reliably create the innovation, drive the innovation forward with higher statistics, results, and everything else. Inside that model, he's got data which supports what the numbers are, how much time you might want to spend on this thing. So reach out to him, talk to him, and ask him about how this model can actually help you create predictable innovation, especially in big organizations where you can't leave this to random. You can't leave it to people figuring out on their own. And so it's not that it's like you can't take shortcuts. You can. But the problem is we can't leave shortcuts just to anybody, especially when you're a big professional organization. How do you train 1,000 people to do the same thing consistently? And that's what we call bringing discipline to innovation. Ian, you have 1 minute for the last word, and then we'll wrap the meeting.
Super. No, thank you very much, everyone. It's been really enjoyable to get to talk to a knowledgeable audience and share the model and the framework that I've built. And just to echo Chandra, that if anybody does want to know any more, then I'm more than happy to talk to anyone. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I saw as a comment about the slides. I'll share them with Arila soon. We can get to them, and they've got links to all of the academic journals and articles that I've used to build the model within the slides.
Very good. Thank you, Ian. So with that, thank you very much for tuning in. GIMI, Global Innovation Management Institute philosophy, objective, mission, and vision is to democratize innovation worldwide. And we want to do that by training 1 million people on innovation. And our belief is it's together we can and we will. Thank you, everybody. Join in next week. All right.